Alright, so in my 10 Little Indian Steam project, I decided to go with the Do You Know Where I Am story by Sherman Alexie, and the theme I wanted to focus on was the relationships. Alright, so my first quote is We were inseparable, we ate our meals together, and we fed each other. And the reason why I chose this image is because that rope kind of represents how a relationship works, or when you're in love together. It almost feels like you're tied together. You guys are poetry in motion in a way that that rope signifies you guys being together almost every single day, because when you first fall in love with somebody, you are able to see experience experience things and see a person grow, which makes you fall in love even more with them. And as this quote says, we ate our meals together and fed each other. You guys are entwined in your relationship so much that you guys never want to leave your sides. You want to spend every day, every minute, every second with them. And that this is what this rope is saying. Nothing can separate you guys, and that's what love does to you. It just wants you. It just wants you two to be together. All right, and then my second quote was Her joy was rowdy, rude, and pervasive. I laughed with her and pulled her close to me and pressed my face into her hair and breathed in her scent. And the reason why I went with this specific image is because, as you can see, these two characters are blindfolded, and they're also holding like a rope which is tied into their hearts, which is something that a lot of people describe as love too, because when you are in love, you are blinded by whatever personality they have, and you almost are attached to anything and everything they do. They're the way they speak, the way they laugh, the way they argue with you, everything, every little thing, every little detail, something you're attached. You're just blinded by them and blinded by their negative, or if anything, all their negative personality traits almost evaporate or vanish because you were so in love with this person. And that's what this image shows, is no matter what, you're blindfolded and attached to their heart. And in my next quote, all during this time Sharon never spoke. I can only guess at her emotions, but imagined she was shocked and hurt by my disloyalty. And the reason why I chose this image is because in relationships, there will be times when your significant other will decide to do something that you might not thought he was capable of or she was capable of doing, and it will hurt you. And in this picture, it shows um, one of the characters backstabbing the other character, and the other character is saying "I love you, Sally," representing how how surprised someone might be when another person betrays or does something non-loyal to their significant other. And as the quote says as well, she was shocked. Anybody would be shocked in that occasion, because when you're in love, again, you never expect your significant other to disappoint you in such a dramatic and significant way. All right, my next quote: Sharon broke away from me and ran. And in relationships, there will be times when you guys hit a certain point where it feels like it is time to break up, or it's time to let go, or it's time to just give up. Just simply give up. And some people will just walk away or run away, or whatever you want to say. They just give up. And there's times when that might be the best case scenario. However, that's not always the right decision. And sometimes you might want to fight for it, which happens in this specific story. Um, you go through the pains, you go through the motions, you repeat them, and you just keep fighting for each other. And that's what this image is showing. It's showing how a person can easily give up after whatever they have over or confronted in their life, and it will beat you up sometimes, but you just have to get up and face it. All right, this next quote. He's been gone for 22 years, she said, but I can still feel him right here in the room with us. I still smell him, his hair, his skin. All right, so the reason why I chose this image is because it shows a very powerful image of what this quote is trying to say. It represents how relationship and love can be can be together forever. That kind of love never goes away no matter how long it's been. You still feel that person there. That person never leaves your sight or never leaves your presence. That's what it feels like. It feels like that person has never left your presence. And as the quote says, he's been gone for 22 years, but he she could still feel him and smell him, still imagine him there. And it's something that love does to you in relationships when you're with someone for so long and they just suddenly disappear, whether they just leave or they pass away. It's something you could it's really hard to let go and forget. After being with someone for 22 years, I wouldn't expect any part of that person to forget what left their presence. And then the next quote, how could I love a person and want to hurt her so much? How can I look at my wife, the mother of my children, and feel only the need for revenge? And this picture shows exactly what that quote is trying to say. Love will beat you up, it will hurt, it will feel like pins and needles are in your heart, it will beat you down to the ground, but there's times when you know that this person is worth fighting for, and in a relationship you will know that you will know whether or not it's worth it. And just like that, the guy is crying blood and bleeding all over the floor. It will be worth it for some people. Love can be that strong, and no matter how much hate, how much pain some people go through it, and they end up stronger. Their relationship ends up stronger, and yeah. The next quote, there were times when both of us wanted to quit, but we always found the strength to get up in the morning and go back to the job. And the reason why I chose this specific photo is because people are afraid in relationships to get out of the comfort zone, you know? And in relationships, you're supposed to go out of your comfort zone. You're supposed to try different things and enjoy life with your significant other. And the life of your dreams is right outside that box or outside that zone. And as the quote says, they both wanted to quit, which that was in their comfort zone. They both wanted to quit. That would be the easy way out. That's always the easy way out, is quitting. However, they busted out of that bubble, and in order to bust out that bubble, they got out of their comfort zone and they achieved their goals by pushing through all these roadblocks in the relationship, and they achieved their lifelong dream at the end of the story, which for some people it's just too hard to do, and it's understandable because sometimes their relationship is not strong enough and not worth all that pain and trouble. All right, my next quote is: Suddenly Sharon and I were 40. And the reason why I chose this picture and this quote is because time flies in relationships. When you're in love, I've heard that time just flies by and you just got to go with it because there's no way of going back in time. Of course, you could relive your memories by photos and videos and all that, but at the end of the day, you will get older, and you until you realize it, time will just fly by like nothing else, and it's something that you need to be aware of because if you're if you're willing to spend the rest of your life with someone else, time is so precious that you don't want to waste it. You don't want to waste your time halfway through that marriage, wasting 30 years and saying, "Oh, I can't do this anymore." And as this quote says, it was such a surprise to them. Suddenly, I were 40, or Sharon and I were suddenly 40. And that's something that happens to a lot of people. You just sit back one day and you realize how fast time flew, and then suddenly you have children, and it's something people should be aware of when getting into a relationship and really thinking about whether or not their significant other is worth it. All right, so this next quote: We fought hard for our happiness, and sometimes we won. Over the years, we won often enough to develop a strong taste for winning. And the reason why I chose this specific photo for this quote is because sometimes it just feels like it's impossible. And some people butt heads, or some people in relationships butt heads, and it feels like you guys are not going anywhere. And one day you might make a little bit of progress, and then the next day just feels like you just went back 20 steps. And it might feel impossible from that day to think, oh, we might overcome this one day. We might. And some people just give up at that point. But in your mind, you have to have that strong mentality in order to overcome the obstacles you guys are going through in life. Nothing is impossible, and everything is possible if you put your mind towards it. And in relationships, you have to be with the right person and have the right mentality to overcome your your problems that you guys are going through. And it might be worth it and it might not, but it can be easy for you guys to quit, and that's something everybody should remember. All right, and the last quote I believe is: 1 year later, after chemotherapy, radiation, organic food, acupuncture, and tribal shaman, Sharon laid on her deathbed in Sacred Hope Hospital. All right, so in this image, I decided to pick it because it shows the lifespan of a couple from their early years till their death, and then at the very end, it shows them dancing. But the reason why I chose this picture is because in relationships, there are those miracle stories or those amazing love stories where they meet as a young couple and then they just stay together their whole lives. They overcome all the obstacles that come along with it. They raise their children properly, and then they just die at the end. An old happy couple, I should say. And that's something to keep in mind with is that when you get into a relationship with somebody, you have to be willing to understand and understand how beautiful life is. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to end it right there.